Nigel Farage has strongly criticized Keir Starmer, accusing the Labour leader of being the greatest threat to free speech in British history. This criticism comes in the context of ongoing discussions about new regulations in the UK, which aim to tackle harmful online content. Farage's concerns mainly focus on how these potential regulations might affect civil liberties, especially when it comes to sensitive social and political issues, such as far-right violence and misinformation. As the debate grows, there is a clear tension between the need to protect free speech and the need to combat the spread of false information. Farage's claim that Keir Starmer is the biggest threat to free speech comes as Starmer is considering new measures to regulate social media. These proposed rules could require social media companies to limit content that may not be illegal but is considered harmful. Starmer's government is also exploring teaching children as young as 5 how to spot fake news online. Farage argues that such regulations could limit open discussion and lead to a narrowing of the topics people are allowed to talk about freely. He fears that these changes would lead to a loss of freedom in the UK. The trigger for these concerns was the violent events surrounding the stabbing in Southport last month. Farage pointed to how the truth about the incident seemed unclear and was the subject of online speculation. There were false claims that an asylum seeker, who had recently arrived in the UK, was responsible for the deaths of 3 young girls. This led to far-right clashes in the town, with online rumors fueling anger and fear. Farage said that while no one should use social media to spread hate or incite violence, people should still be able to discuss and question events freely on these platforms. Farage argued that by pushing for restrictions on this kind of online discussion, Starmer was threatening free speech in ways never seen before. He suggested that these measures would make it harder for people to ask important questions or share different viewpoints, even if those viewpoints are controversial. He expressed concern that this could set a dangerous precedent, where people with differing opinions are labeled as extremists just for asking difficult questions, such as questioning the government's policies on immigration or climate change. According to Farage, this kind of regulation would create a society where certain topics are off limits and where critical thinking is stifled. He warned that if schools started teaching children that questioning ideas like net zero or immigration would be considered extreme or wrong, it would set the stage for a generation that grows up unable to think critically or challenge authority. He sees this as a fundamental threat to democracy and freedom of expression. In response to Farage's criticisms, Bridget Phillipson, the UK's Education Secretary, defended the government's approach. She said that schools would teach children how to recognize harmful conspiracy theories, especially through subjects like English and ICT, information and communication technology. Phillipson emphasized that this was about protecting young people from dangerous and misleading ideas online. Farage's comments also came after a dispute between Keir Starmer and Elon Musk, the billionaire owner of the social media platform X. Musk criticized Starmer's approach to handling the far-right violence, suggesting that certain groups were being treated unfairly. Musk pointed out that 2 men, Tyler Kay and William Morgan, had been sentenced to prison for their roles in the unrest. Kay, aged 26, was sentenced to over 3 years for using social media to encourage violence, while Morgan, aged 69, received a 2.5-year sentence for violent disorder and carrying a weapon. Farage expressed concern that these kinds of measures, which target online activity, could be used to suppress political views. He pointed out that he was now facing public calls for his arrest simply for asking questions about the identity of the murderer in the Southport case. He argued that if the government had told the truth about the incident earlier, the riots might not have happened at all. He worried that the authorities were becoming too quick to censor discussions on social media, potentially leading to the loss of free speech. When asked if he was worried about facing arrest for his comments, Farage admitted that he was concerned. He pointed out that his only intention was to seek the truth and to make sure that the public had access to accurate information. He felt that if the truth had been shared sooner, the violence could have been prevented. He warned that the situation was becoming more dangerous for those who questioned the official narrative. However, Downing Street has strongly disagreed with Farage's accusations. A spokesperson for the Prime Minister denied that Starmer posed any such threat to free speech, stating that the government's priority was not to restrict speech but to make sure that what is illegal offline is also illegal online. The spokesperson emphasized that the government was not aiming to silence anyone but was working to ensure a safe online environment that could better protect people from harm and misinformation. In conclusion, Farage's claims that Keir Starmer is the biggest threat to free speech in British history have sparked a significant debate about the balance between protecting people from harmful online content and preserving freedom of expression. Farage believes that the government's proposed regulations could limit critical thinking and create an environment where people are afraid to speak their minds. On the other hand, the government insists that its priority is to make online platforms safer and more responsible without curbing free speech. This ongoing debate raises important questions about the future of free expression and the role of government in regulating the internet.